Hello, everyone, and welcome to Module 10, How Would You Handle the Great Depression? So really just in this module, we're going to go over the directions for your final project. So there's no additional notes that we're going to talk about. We'll just be discussing what you'll do for your final assignment. So essentially for this project, we've learned throughout this course all of the historical events and major themes happening from the Roaring Twenties through the Second New Deal. And we talked about Hoover and Roosevelt's presidencies and how they handled the different crises that happened during the Great Depression era. And so now it's your turn. So essentially, this project will be having you act as the president, and you will be answering how would you handle the events of the Great Depression era if you were president when the crisis occurred. So what laws would you pass? What programs would you develop? And how would you communicate your plans to the American people? So essentially, a good way to think about this is think about what we learned in the way Hoover and Roosevelt handled each crisis and what they did. And think about if you liked how they handled that particular crisis, and if you would do something similar, or think about if you didn't like it and what would you change about their approach. So that's a good way to think about it if you can't off the bat come up with an idea of how you would handle each different crisis. Now you can have some fun with this. You can think about as if the Great Depression was happening in that particular era, like the 1930s, or you can think about it as if the Great Depression were happening today, and that might change how you would approach each crisis. So this project will be done in two phases. Part one is going to deal with the outlining your political strategies for each crisis, and part two will deal with how you will communicate that to the American people and you can be a little bit more creative in your approach for part two. So part one, you're essentially filling out this chart. So it's going to have different crises that happened during the Great Depression era. So your example one here is talking about the bonus marchers, but you'll go through and explain your strategy if you were president, how you would handle the stock market crash, bank runs, the Dust Bowl, the agricultural crisis of sick industries, and the high unemployment rate in the Great Depression. So essentially, you want to fill out what your strategy would be in complete sentences, at least 5 sentences per crisis, and outline your plan for how you would deal with that crisis. Again, think about what actually happened to help you come up with ideas. Make sure, though, because we know that the Great Depression was not super conscious until the Second New Deal of how the Depression particularly impacted marginalized communities, especially racial minorities and women. So you want to, in your plans, consider those perspectives. If you need help, like consult your notes, you can email me as your instructor. And again, an example has been filled out for you here of an example strategy. Essentially, I'm not going to read it to you, but it would be to give the bonus marchers their bonus and allow, if the bonus was used to start a business, you could get additional money from the government. So part two is to come up with a communication strategy. So you're going to pick just one crisis. Let me bold that for everybody there. So you want to pick one crisis from the chart above for what you want to develop a communication strategy about. And it's up to you how you want to communicate your plan to the American people. Do you want to make a podcast or a radio broadcast? Do you want to make an ad campaign? A video campaign, an informational video, or a political speech? Or you can, if you can come up with another method for how to deliver that, you can email me for permission. Yeah, we're really just open to how you want to communicate your ideas to the American people. There are minimum lengths for each thing, so you can read that there in the instructions. And remember, you can pretend as if the Great Depression were happening today. So if you wanted to do like a TikTok campaign, and make a bunch of TikToks, informational TikToks, that could be allowed. Um, but just be sure to email for approval. And you want to, when that's done, upload it as a separate file to the assignment. So for your project, you'll be turning in this chart and the separate file. Here's an example ad for the program I was talking about, right? Want to earn an even bigger bonus to start a business. And that would be a way to get additional money. And so that this is just one ad, but I would create 3 total ads in order to promote this program. Okay, so those are all the instructions for how to complete your project. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.